George Washington's birthday.
Well, there we go. See, 222 is a great day to be born.
You
George,
guys
All
mind
right,
if
here
I
we
go?
are,
George Washington was the father of our country.
live on YouTube. So, welcome, Sharon, Lori, and Dove. And I'm turning the mic over to you all, and you can divide up the time as you wish.
Do you guys mind if I go first?
Go.
Okay.
Happy one.
Not at all. No, no, no.
Okay, I'm reading from Ken Wapnick's Journey Through the Workbook, Lesson 53. I love these review lessons. Absolutely love, love, love them. One of my friends, or two of them, they're a married couple, Dan and Carol Maynard, put on a workshop called the 51st Lessons, First 50 Lessons. And it changed my understanding of the course, and it was so good. And they based it on the reviews because the reviews really help you understand them. And this is not today's review, but the review of lesson 3 really helped me a lot. I never could get that one. It says, I do not understand anything I see. And I thought, I understand things that I see. I don't understand what this lesson means. And when the lesson reviewed it and said, I do not understand anything I see because it is not understandable. I'll just read that lesson because it's so good. I do not understand anything I see. How could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. And that is the line that I have used ever since. That line, I do not understand what I see because it is not understandable. It's all a dream, and it's all a crazy dream. It's like our dreams at night. We don't understand our dreams at night. They're nuts. They're crazy. They don't make any sense at all, and neither does this world. And something came up the other day, and I'm curious as to what you guys think. When I was listening to Regis and then Zulma chimed in the other day on Tuesday, Regis was saying, which I agree with him, that saying it's just not real. Oh, it's just not real isn't helpful. I totally agree with that. Oh, it's not real. And it could be a spiritual bypass for a lot of people because they're not feeling their emotions. And inside, they are making the world real, but they're just saying intellectually, oh, it's not real. It's not real. And you don't heal that way. And what he was saying was, it's not that it's not real, it's my thoughts about it aren't real. And then Zulma chimed in and agreed with him. And I wrote on the board and thought, I don't know about that, because to me, it's that both aren't real. It's the world is not real, and your thoughts about it are not real. And you do need to start with your thoughts and feelings about it, but also all form is not real. That's lesson 132. There is no world. This is the central thought the course attempts to teach. And then I was reading in the review of lesson 2 this morning in Ken's Journey Through the Workbook. It says, the ego has set up its defensive system as a huge gap between our attack thoughts. Okay, so that's our judgment of the world is not real. The ego has set up its defensive system as a huge gap between our attack thoughts and the pain that is their effect. This gap is represented by the world of time and space, its purpose being to enable us to feel justified in attributing our pain to things beyond us, forces we cannot control. So the whole world is a projection. So there's multiple layers of defenses. So we have our attack thoughts, and then we have the seeming world of time and space, which is another layer, a defensive layer to keep us from seeing that the whole kit and caboodle aren't real. Well, anyway, that's just my take on it. Did you want to say something, Sharon? Oh, I thought I heard you stepping in. Okay. So anyway, lesson 53, the review starts out with lesson 11, the review of 11. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Since the thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything, the world that pictures them can have no meaning. What is producing this world is insane, and so is what it produces. Reality is not insane, and I have real thoughts as well as insane ones. Ken says, our thoughts of individuality, sinfulness, specialness, etc., have produced this world. Therefore, since the cause of the world is my insane thoughts, then the world as the effect must be equally insane. Cause and effect are never separated, for they are one. Reality, however, is not insane, despite the ego's protestations to the contrary. It tells us God is insane, vengeful, angry, and yet he thinks otherwise. He, the Holy Spirit. As he did in the first 50 lessons, Jesus explains that we have a split mind containing unreal thoughts of hate and real thoughts of love. It remains for us to choose which ones we shall make real for ourselves. He tries to help us realize how miserable and unhappy we become when we choose the unreal thoughts of attack, judgment, and specialness. It is that misery that will ultimately impel us to choose again. And chapter 2, section 3 says, tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. As this recognition becomes more firmly established, it becomes a turning point. Then paragraph 1, line 5 reads, I can therefore see a real world if I look to my real thoughts as my guide for seeing. Ken says, this is the world of vision, the inner world in which there are no thoughts of separation or judgment, the world of thought that is beyond the dream of hate, wherein we are able at last to see the dream for what it is. So again, there's no world out there. It's all a dream. And when we get to that place of, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming. Oh, that's right. I remember, yeah, I dreamt that up. Oh my gosh, I'm projecting this dream. And I don't have to be upset about it anymore. The whole thing disappears. And I like to have this vision of, I have a couple visions that I use. One, I see myself in a dark room. Everything's pitch black. And all of my thoughts and feelings and history are in this dark room. And then I flick the light on and it's all gone. It's not there. And another vision that I like to use is where I put what I see as the ego self and all of its problems and all of its history and pain and suffering and its seeming pleasures in the world. I put it out in front of me in a bubble and say, am I willing to pop that bubble? And I just pop that bubble, and just like a bubble, it disappears, the disappearance of the universe. And so I like to use those things when I find myself caught in identification with the dream figure. So Ken says, from seeing the dream, there it is only an instant longer until God reaches down and lifts us up to himself, the last step in our journey, as we see depicted in this lovely statement from chapter 11, section 8. And then your Father will lean down to you and take the last step for you by raising you unto himself. Now that's a statement written in duality, and it's not really where there's a God out there who's lifting us up. It's really our own mind that says, I made a mistake. Oops. And I love Scott Grace's song, Oops, I made a mistake. And I'm beautiful. Yes, I'm beautiful. I sing that to my granddaughters. And it's really cool because the almost 2-year-old the other day, I don't know what I did. I think I spilled something or she spilled her milk or whatever. And I started singing that. And she started singing it after me. And the other granddaughter that's a little older and can sing well, she sings it all the time. And it's just such a beautiful thing to say, oops, we made a mistake. Everything that I thought I did in this world was, oops, I made a mistake. And I'm going to turn it over to you. So I'm done with the review of lesson 11, and the next review is lesson 12, whether you guys take that up or not. So I'll turn this over to either one of you. Why don't you guys choose?
Sharon, do you want to go or should I go?
You can go.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for opening us up, Lori. It's kind of like you're right. I really I did not value the review lessons for a long time because as a matter of fact, my history of doing the course is I did the first 50 lessons in 50 days. So I did a lesson a day. I loved them. And then I came to review lessons and I literally stopped. It took me 6 months to get to lesson 61. I know you're probably laughing. I'm laughing too. But I had a thought that I don't like to do reviews. I finally realized that the review lessons are completely new. They are not the same. It's not like reviewing the lessons. Also, I want to mention that right now, for those people who do listen to Ken Wapnick in the mornings, Prudence plays him, of course, every morning from around 5:30 to 8:30. So right now she's playing a workshop, which I never really heard of because I kind of thought I knew most of his workshops. It's called the workbook. He's going over the workbook, and the first couple of days he's going over the same lessons that we're looking at. And yeah, one of the lines in lesson 12 is it says, if you could see what is underneath the way you see the world, you would be indescribably happy. And I've often looked at that line and says, man, imagine. Yeah, well, basically, when you're looking at the world, you're looking at your own meaningless thoughts, which basically was what we just reviewed. It's my meaningless thoughts. The thoughts of the ego are totally meaningless because they have nothing to do with reality. So, but that's what I'm looking at in the world, which, the more I live in this world, the more I say, my God, this world's insane. I mean, can you imagine what's going on in this world? It's an insane world. Well, of course, my thoughts are an insane. The ego is insane. So, thanks to Lynn posting as she sends out the mail every single day. And I said, I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. That's 53.2, which is a review of lesson 12. Insane thoughts are upsetting. They produce a world in which there is no order anywhere. You can say that again. Only chaos rules a world that represents chaotic thinking, and chaos has no laws. I cannot live in peace in such a world. I am grateful that this world is not real and that I need not see it all unless I choose to value it. And I do not choose to value what is totally insane and has no meaning. So, yeah, it gets to my birthday lesson, which Jesus says, every now and then it's wonderful to have a very practical lesson. And he calls lesson 133. This is a very practical lesson. He says it in the first paragraph of the lesson. And basically it says, I won't value what's valueless. Anything in this world of form has no meaning because it's projected from my meaningless thoughts. And if I value anything in this world of time and space, I'm valuing the valueless. And of course, at the end, I'll find there's nothing in my storehouse because it's of time and space is the same illusion. And as all illusions, they will disappear. And whatever is in the illusion will disappear. I did put up in the chat, also in the room, let me see if I can find it. Ken Wapnick's commentary on today's lesson 53. He said, you can see how Jesus returns over and over to the core symphonic themes of these lessons: reality, illusion, and the power of our minds to choose between reality and illusions. The point here is extremely important because the problem is we have forgotten that we have such power to choose. So if Dove is looking at the world and said, my God, what's going on? I mean, nothing makes sense. Certainly what's going on in the power capital of the United States in Washington makes no sense at all. What's going on in the world and makes no sense at all. And if you try and make sense of it and you're choosing one over the other, you are using the ego's idea of one is good and one is bad. And that's I was listening to your good friend Keith on John Monday, and he pointed out that when we picked the apple from the tree of knowledge, we thought we knew what was good and bad. And of course, in a world of good and bad, right and wrong, you and me, it's a world that opposes. And what is it opposing? And if you're listening to Ken Wapnick during the series, everything that we do is really, we're opposing the love of God. We're in denial of the truth. And if you're in denial of truth, what are you going to wind up with? Well, a belief system, you know how I feel about beliefs, lies, that, certainly is out to kill you. And, the pain and the suffering that we go through in this world comes from fear. And fear of what? Fear of a world that I made as a substitute in denial of the love of God, the truth. So I hide out in the dark, hoping that the light doesn't find me. And of course, I am nothing more than a defense against the light of truth. You got to laugh. Hi, Zoma. Over to you, Sharon.
Zuma, Regis, McCallie, thank you for coming today. I love seeing you guys. Well, actually, I'm not seeing anything. This week on Monday night, Lynn and Glorian are doing these reviews. And it was so beautiful that every part of the review Lynn has edited these beautiful pictures to go with it. And it just brings a different experience because when I started the course, the reviews upset the ego in this mind. What do I have to know that again? Why would I need to do that over again? Well, if you're a course student, you know that, we learn by repetition. So everything here is neutral. The body is neutral. Okay. The body is neutral. And when the body gets sick, and then this mind will talk about it, I'll be interpreting what's wrong with the body. But it's always back to the mind. It's always back to thought. But it's not really Sharon's thought always, because there's only one of us here. So sometimes, you in this process, you could get a brother's stuff. It's not like we have an individual curriculum, but as we grow into the awareness, we see that there's no separate thoughts. I mean, we think they're private, these thoughts. But really, when it comes down to it, is anything really private? If everything's coming from the inside, and it's inside not just with Sharon, it's inside with Dove, with Lori, Michaela, Zuma, Regis, all of us. But we're all in there. We're not really this outer picture is just that. It's just a picture. And the attraction to guilt is very, very deep, as I've seen in this mind, right? Because, we want to see what's going on in politics, or I want to see what's going on in politics, and I want to hate him and like him. And all of that is the whole Course in Miracles telling us how we are picking one or the other. And then without neutrality, I have an interpretation. Well, I don't like him. He's this, he's that. This is how this whole mind works. And, the thing that I think that it's very, very helpful is to really laugh at all of it. Oh, Mikhail, I'm sorry. I have such a hard time with names, but yeah, speak, you have your hand up, honey. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I'm really grateful for this gathering and this group, and I love going over all the course and what everybody says. And uh, today I woke up and it would have been Ken Wapnick's physical birthday, and I was just thinking of what a gift that he was to all of us on this planet, and in helping interpret course. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's all. Thank you, Sharon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think we're on the same page. We all love Ken's work. Dove always will say, like, well, it's no accident that Ken is I think is the master teacher. I don't want to give him, because there's no hierarchy, but he was in the book Journey Without Distance. That had to be my favorite book that I have given to people over and over again, because I, in the beginning, wanted to be, are you sure it's not real? Are you sure it's not real? That kind of thing. And I don't know who told me. It could have been Dove. It could have been Liz Cronkite. It could have been somebody else that told me, get the book. And you can see in that book, John Mundy's in the book, Bob Scutch is in the book. It's all the beginning teachers. And, I don't know that Carol Howe's in the book, but I've been drawn to her lately. And, I was sharing the other night that Carol has said that lessons still come up for her. Because everything that we get caught in is a lesson of love, really. It's a lesson to look at what we're believing. And it's always something negative. I mean, either it's for the brother or for ourselves, but that's what it is. It's just negativity at its best. And, one of the things in the manual that I always loved was, when he talks about kill or be killed, because that was a demonstration that Regina did with Laurent that I thought was fabulous back then, because you got to see the hatred in both of their minds, because they shared it with us on how much hatred they had for each other. And it was kind of like if you're a course student, it was absolutely helpful, especially for me. I was beginning the course. And what this really means is that we always think it's the other, right? That's bad, but we're all thinking we're bad. We all feel limited. In that limited mind, we have no idea what's going on here. We're just looking at concepts all day. So when we talk about it's not real, I think when Zuma brought that into our, process, she's right. It's not about not being real. It's how we see it. Like, do we really know a tree is a tree? Or how about the fact that none of it means anything, right? So when we look at our story and we want to go into the glory, it happens organically. That's my experience. I didn't meditate for years. I didn't, I never wanted ego death, because I don't even care about that. I just wanted to feel better. That was my main goal. And today, I feel great. And I'm not saying that Sharon did that. It's happening through all of us from the one, because this is all oneness, having a dream of separation. And, when we do get caught and we cry or any of that, what my feeling is, be with that brother, because that brother is you. And it's not like we need to teach another course student what we believe. What we want to do is show up as love. One of the things that I was gifted very early on as a person was compassion. I don't know if that comes just from the way of my nature or was just what I went through. But there was always this compassionate nature to understand, and the thing that I got after all these years is you cannot understand anything here, because you're listening not only to an insane mind, but it's interpreting things in duality. So it's the law of opposites here. And every law here is absolutely ridiculous. It brings me to a time when I had to return. My husband, that I'm married to now, Cliff, was upset with the fact that my ex-husband, was absolutely stalking me and upsetting me, because he owed like $100,000 in child support. And they were so excited because they knew me down at the court that I was going to get that. But, just like every other ego, this ego I was married to from my first marriage was kind of like he couldn't stop himself from harassing me for taking his money. And Cliff, my husband, now said, "Why do you even care? Let me just put that money in your name and that'll help." And there are times in the dream that I've gotten upset with him because I do love helping my children, especially my youngest one. My oldest is doing fine. I just do. Love just does that. Codependency is when the person's not doing anything. My younger son is doing so well. He does a beautiful, compassionate thing in this world. He helps disabled adults, and he's just beautiful. And he moved down the street from me because he could see that I was growing and I had less and less and less judgment. Because that is the problem, isn't it? Judgment divides us. And anytime we are thinking, we are in separation, right? But some of our thoughts are on a higher vibration. And some of our, because really it's the lower ego and the higher ego. And the higher ego is higher self. Because if we go completely back to God, which maybe some have, like I said, Jesus and the Buddha, I don't know. But this is a reflection of heaven, and heaven is love. So what does A Course in Miracles do? Well, those first 50 lessons is all, I mean, I got to say this, I didn't meditate, but the first 50 lessons, at least for this mind, in the 7 years before Gather became Awakening Together, I was doing them all the time, right? And then I don't know, I got a little distracted for a good reason. I was learning different tools and I was learning different spiritual books. And, but in the end, I was brought back to this course because you don't need to really meditate. I mean, you can, and it can help you. And I know that, a lot of teachers swear you should meditate, but you can't necessarily meditate because everything is a meditation when the truth comes in your mind, right? The truth, you're seeing from vision, and vision is really all that's here. It's this present moment. And the thing that I love the most about Ken Wapnick always was it's a process. And he would make people laugh, but he would repeat himself over. And that's something I say because of the ego in this mind, because it showed up in a world where it struggled in school in the first 6 years. So the mind of the ego was saying, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. And I'm quite sure it said it to every one of us because there's only one mind. So what are we really not getting? Well, today I realize there is nothing to get. It's always perfect. And it's always for us. Everything that we get triggered is just a mistaken belief that we think that we're less than perfect. Over to you, Laura.
Thanks, Sharon. And Mikhail, you have your hand up. I don't know if that's from a new thing. Go ahead and talk if it's new.
Oh, I just wanted to say I love what you're sharing, Sharon. Thank you so much. And it works and it is a process, but I think I told you in the group that my 96-year-old neighbor for some reason had a judgment. She made up a story in her head and decided not to like me. And so I just kept being love and kindness and forgiveness towards her. And it all worked out yesterday unexpectedly. I came out of my house to go walk my dog, and she was sitting in her garage, and I waved to her and she waved back. So my dog loves her. So we went over there and she pet the dog, and then I sat down and we chatted for about 45 minutes, and it was really lovely. And then my other neighbor came over who had invited me over to her house for 5 o'clock. And so we ended up inviting my 96-year-old neighbor and another neighbor, and we just had a really nice gathering. And there was love, peace, compassion, understanding, and it was just really nice. So it works. All I was just, I didn't judge her. I just tried to implement these teachings from the Course in Miracles. And yes, I love Ken's teachings and what you said, Sharon, that he said it's a process, and it is a process, and this took time, and it's still my classroom, but I'm just being kind. That's all I'm doing, is just being kind, and it miracles happen. I didn't expect her to be there, and I'll continue loving her whether she judges me or not. It doesn't matter, because it's not real anyways. Only thing that's real is the love. So thank you.
Thank you, Mikhail.
Yeah, thanks. You're right. The only thing that's real is the love. That's for sure. And I appreciate your story about the neighbor. I had a neighbor when I was 18, and it was so cool. I was so grateful for this lesson. At the time, I was involved in a church youth group, and this guy was one of those men that peered out of his window, the little tiny window in his front door, to make sure that the kids didn't walk on his grass, and he was one of these really uptight people. And so, of course, the kids in the neighborhood, including myself when I was younger, would see him peering out his window, and then we would deliberately step on his grass or put a toe on his grass. And once I became a Christian, I realized that was not very loving. And so I decided I was just going to love this guy. And I just started saying hi to him. And for a while, he never said hi back. And then one day he started saying hi back. And then he said hi first and smiled. And it was so nice. And I did the same thing with a woman at a retirement home that I worked at, who was considered crabby. Rah, 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 rah. And I just said hi to her, and she rah to me. And I just kept saying hi. And then finally she started saying hi back, and we became friends. And I just love stories like that because they feel so good. So Dov, what you were saying about not liking to review, and then we're talking about the process, it does seem like it takes forever. This process, I mean, I've been working on spiritual issues for 40 years. And I mean, actively working ever since I started Unity Church in 1986, and went, whoa, this is new. But even before then, I was a Christian trying to be a better person, but it's a totally different way of looking at it once you get to Unity and A Course in Miracles. And in the last couple of years, I have seen things deep down that I never saw before, or hit these layers of shame and pain that's like, have I done this before? And maybe I haven't, I don't remember, but it's like, wow, I can't believe after 40 years, I'm just touching this stuff. So it is a process, and we have to review all the time. And Sharon, what you said about teachers that say you have to meditate. I gave up on meditation a long, long, long time ago. And I just thought, I was so happy when I read chapter 18, section 7, I need do nothing, which said that long periods of meditation are not necessary. And I'm like, thank you, God. Because if they were, I'd never get to heaven. I'd never wake up, become enlightened, etc. Which, of course, I know all of those thoughts aren't real or meaningful anymore anyway. But what I found just through doing forgiveness, doing the workbook lessons, is that my mind got a lot quieter naturally. And I meditate in my own way. Mine is a book. A book for me is like lighting a candle, or lighting incense, or doing a mantra. A book for me, and it doesn't matter what kind of book it is. It can be spiritual, it can be fiction, it can be almost like a cereal box. But I'll read something and it'll spark a thought, and I'll stop and I'll go into contemplation. But in the contemplation, my mind stops. And that for me is my best meditation, a book and a cup of tea. So you can meditate any way you want to, whether it's knitting or walking in the woods or a sport where you get in the zone. That's all it is when your mind stops and you stop all those judgmental thoughts. So getting back to the review in Ken's Journey Through the Workbook, he says about lesson 12, I am upset because I see a meaningless world. In the laws of chaos, Jesus puts the word laws in quotation marks, signifying they are not really laws because they make no sense. The only true laws are the laws of God. Jesus does not do so here, but the meaning is the same. Chaos has no laws. Before we can elect not to value what is totally insane, we first have to accept that the world is totally insane. What helps us realize this is that the world makes us totally unhappy. Our specialness desires, even when they are fulfilled and gratified, do not make us happy and do not bring us the peace of God. And I was thinking about that recently because I'm not in a relationship anymore. And the thought of somebody new is immediately followed by, and that's not going to make you happy. And as I was thinking about it, I thought, I was with this guy that was really wonderful in all these different ways, and I wasn't happy. And I was with this other guy that was really wonderful in all these different ways, and I was depressed. So even as I look back with men that I threw out because I couldn't receive love, they were very loving to me, and I threw them out and was quested for somebody else. I was never happy. And so it's totally ingrained now that the minute I think anything is going to make me happy, whether it's going out to a restaurant with friends, going for a walk in the woods, reading a good book, sex, whatever it is, I immediately know, and that's just a pleasure of the world. My true happiness comes from feeling one with God, one with life, one with everyone and everything, and being centered and calm and peace of mind. And that is such a gift to know that. And it doesn't matter, well, if that doesn't happen, oh, okay, I'm still happy because my true nature is happiness. That that is such a gift. Oh my gosh, it's the best gift ever to know that my happiness is mine. It's within me. It's my own true nature, and I don't need a thing. And then the other thing that comes up is when I think of having a new relationship, I think, well, you know what the ego's going to do is going to say, well, now I'm spending all this time with him and I don't have time to read, or I'm spending all this time with him and I don't have time for my other friends. So the ego's always going to find something wrong with whatever you're doing and want something else. That's what it does. And so just being aware of it, you don't have to change it because it's going to jump up, is very helpful. So knowing, oh, all I have to do is breathe, because the minute I breathe, I'm aware of spirit, because that's inspiration, spirit, inspire, respiration, breathing in. It's like when the Bible says he's as close as your breath. Well, that's what it means. So Ken goes on saying, our specialness desires, even when they are fulfilled and gratified, do not make us happy and do not bring us to the peace of God. They bring us the peace of the ego, but not heaven's peace. The ultimate reason our insane thoughts are so upsetting is that they remind us of our original insane thought, which we believe will lead to our punishment. In the ominous words of the ego, depicted in this powerful passage from the manual, we read and tremble about the effect of our insane thought of separation, placed in the context of magic thoughts, recognized in another and or in ourselves. So this quote is, magic thoughts can but reawaken sleeping guilt, which you have hidden but not let go. Each one says clearly to your frightened mind, you have usurped the place of God. Think not he has forgotten. Here we have the fear of God most starkly represented, for in that thought that has guilt already raised madness to the throne of God himself. And now there is no hope except to kill. Here is salvation now. An angry father pursues his guilty son. Kill or be killed, for here alone is choice. And isn't that the world? Kill or be killed. To survive in this world, you have to kill something else because you have to eat something else to live. And every being, every animal or human has to do that. Kill or be killed, for here alone is choice. Beyond this, there is none, for what was done cannot be done without. And this is what the ego's saying to itself. The stain of blood can never be removed, and anyone who bears this stain on him must meet with death. And that's Emmanuel number 17. So I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, it's time to turn it over. I think, Dove, were you next? I can't remember if you were next.
Yeah.
Okay, you're next. Okay.
Okay, thank you for picking up on the idea that there's no laws but the laws of God. The laws of this world, which Ken Wapnick calls cannibalistic, which is exactly what you say, kill or be killed. I mean, Charles Darwin nailed it when he said, I can sum up the entire world of Homo sapiens. It's the idea of survival of the fittest. Yeah, so may the most powerful or smartest or whatever it is that you think makes you better, different, will win. And that's what this world is set up to do. That's pretty much why I chose chapter 25, the justice of God, that we do on Monday. Mondays, it starts now at 2:00, goes from 2 to 3. The justice of God is like the one chapter in the book that talks to you about God's laws. It's all together or not at all. Either everyone wins or forget about it. In heaven, we are of equal value. There's no order of difficulty in miracles because all of God's sons are of equal value, and their equality is their oneness. And you find that in chapter 11, section 6, paragraph 10. That's exactly why Jesus says the only reason he came to this world to teach is to teach his brothers, the sons of God, of our equality. Equality is probably the purpose that I set out in my life. Probably, the script is written, is perfect. Sharon did a great teaching the other night, Tuesday, on the script is written as it came through Dr. Brent Haskell, who, if you don't know Brent Haskell's works, Journey Beyond Words and The Other Voice, I always call that the best bang for the buck in the course community. Paralleling Ken Wapnick's teachings, by the way, which I noticed that Lynn was playing it all day long yesterday, Wednesday, in case you joined Gather on Wednesday, but of course it's a day off, but she was playing, I guess it was Journey Beyond Words, yeah. And you get the voice of Kelly Love, who sounds just like God. This is Yeshua, and I've come here to tell you about this. Is wonderful. But getting back to the idea of in my life, the script was written perfectly because I started out in my youth as the most unequal person around. I mean, basically, I was a Jewish kid, the only Jew in a elementary school of 600 students. I mean, 1 out of 600. It boggles my mind. But I got through that finally in high school. It was like 50-50 kind of thing. But in elementary school and yeah, I was pretty much always like a minority. Minority means that others are better than you, and they have something that I don't have. So that's a great way to start out if your purpose is going to be equality. A couple of years ago, we were teaching in San Francisco at the Course in Miracles conference, and I was teaching on a question. equality at that time. And I was given a hat. Someone went to the Nike store and bought a hat called Equality. And equality is the idea of oneness, of sameness, which is really what Jesus is trying to say in 1,300 pages. The reason this world is insane is we don't see the oneness. We see the separation, which of course is the sin. So paralleling my purpose in life, which was to share equality. ACIM Gather is kind of a way of saying we are all the equal sons of God. Everyone is a teacher, and all are invited to take their place among the teachers of God. You don't really see that in too many other places, even in the course community, where there's usually one person who is the teacher, and everyone says, yeah. And of course, and that kind of reminds me of the book that you were reading from the other night on Sunday night, Lori, on Miracles by Andy LeCompte. Little did I know, that was the first time I heard of the book, talking about one of the largest miracle communities, but it's really a cult where one person is considered the figurehead, the teacher, and everyone else is kind of like listening, thinking that they're learning something. And the only way you can really learn is by experiencing, developing trust in hearing the voice for God, the voice of the Holy Spirit, Jesus talking to you and through you. And that's what we do here at ACIM Gathers. My willingness, as it says in lesson 155, to step back, step aside, and let Holy Spirit speak to me and through me. I would follow at your, and that's also the final lesson of the course, lesson 361 through 365. I put you in charge, Holy Spirit, at my request, knowing the direction that you lead me brings me peace. I don't really know the way. So I can go on that topic for a while, but what I wanted to share is last night, somewhere between falling asleep early and then waking up, it was I woke up around 12, 1 o'clock, and it came to me out of nowhere. It was the first time it ever came to me that, that dove who, this is all part of the script is written. In the fourth grade, they give you an IQ test, and I don't know about now, but in those days, it was not, the IQ scores were not to be given to the people. You do not know your IQ score, but the teacher happened to be, she's kind of like, she was like a substitute teacher that particular year. She came up to me and says, I just want you to know that your IQ is very high. And that was probably the worst news my ego could ever have received, or the best news the ego could have ever received. And she told me my score, and I always kept that as, well, I'm more special, I'm smarter, I'm better. And it came to me last night, like at 1 o'clock in the morning. No, you're an idiot savant. You know everything about everything, about nothing. It's a meaningless world. What is it that you're really talking about? Your meaningless thoughts are showing you a meaningless world, and you think it means something. Like that comes from today's lesson 12, which is one of my favorite lessons. Of course, I was born on the 12th. It says, if you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you, you would be indescribably happy. I put that in the chat. So I'm listening to you, Lori and Sharon, and all the sharing here, and all our pain and suffering comes from we think that we know what's going on. No, we do not. I am an idiot savant. I think I know something about. There's nothing to know. There's nothing to know. I'm using the world as a barometer. Oh, well, you're smart. What am I smart about? But what? Zero. So in the justice of God, you're given this idea that only the laws of God have any real meaning, and the laws that you have made is really a war you wage against yourself. Chapter 23. I'm waging a war against myself, thinking I know something. And I don't think there's any accident that 20 years ago I chose lesson number 25 as my mantra lesson. Lesson 25 being, I do not know what anything is for. I realized that the dove thought that he knew things, and it was very helpful to me to start recognizing I do not know what anything is for. And with that, I'll turn this mic on over to you, Sharon.
It's a lot of fun. I love this. What we were talking about is the equality and gather. That was the most helpful thing when I came into the course community, because I knew nothing about the truth. I knew nothing. I just knew from Marianne Williamson, and she was a great teacher at the time when I had her for the first 3 years before I started the course. And when I came in to gather, I met Dove, and I told him, I said, well, the only thing I know is Marianne Williamson. And he said, well, do you want to teach? And I realized right then and there, he was asking me something that maybe I didn't know what that really meant, because, I'm an art teacher. I thought, well, do I have to know this? But what I had felt in a visceral way was whatever I say is going to help me. That's all I knew. And then, I had this magnet just listening every chance I got to gather. I couldn't wait till I got home from teaching to listen. I couldn't wait. My friends that I met in Altoona were in the 12 steps, and they would say, well, why are you doing that? You're isolating. Because in the 12 steps, if you're not around people, then you're isolating, right? That's one of the things. And, as humans, we are wired for connection. But I was growing my consciousness to a place where, the right mind knew there were no people, that I was getting what I needed. And it was just perfect because, and honestly, I learned a lot in Awakening Together, but I so missed Gather. I so missed it. Now, I was never gone from it on Thursdays. I never left. And I would go in and out of it a lot, but I wasn't really just practicing the teaching that changed my life. That's what the Course in Miracles did. It changed those first 50 lessons is really the whole undoing. And it's done in a way that's completely genius. And it's done by the one. It's coming not from this world, it's coming from stillness. So, the gratitude I have for Lynn to open this up on Zoom was just, I have enormous gratitude for that, because I tired of all the other teachings. I've read a lot of them, and I love all the teachings too. But the Course in Miracles it's a book that goes deeper. And I remember, I'm not going to name names, saying, well, the course is the beginning, but then, you're past that, like you graduate. And that's so not true. We are mind. And the mind that we are goes deeper, because we wrote this Course in Miracles as the one Son. There's not an other that wrote this Course in Miracles. So it's actually a perfect manual to wake or to get peace. It was never about awakening. I heard that a lot in the two groups I was in. Awakening. And that's ridiculous, because the person never wakes up. What happens is there's a peace that passes everything that you've ever known. And the understanding is that peace. And the love of acceptance happens organically. And there is there were times in on the path, because so many things happened to us along the path, that I was in gather and I would just say only God is real as a mantra. And it worked. It worked until it didn't, right? It worked until it didn't, because there were more layers to come undone. And now what I'm looking at, and it's all happening in the mind, but it's the root chakra. When you come into the world, what is it? How did you meet the world? And I don't think any of us had an easy time here. It would be impossible, because in a day, somebody has to hurt you. Michele had just spoken about her neighbor. How many times have people not talked to us and we think they're mad at us? And they're not. They're in their own thoughts. They're believing their thoughts about themselves. They're not about us. But our minds are magnets to abuse. We'll say, oh, that she's not talking to me, and it's about me. You know how many times I've done that? And I don't like her. And the reality is that it's only my thoughts in this mind. Now, when I said it, when I got on, I said we all, because there's only one of us here, we do get other thoughts from the universe, and they're really not personal. We seem to have habit energies of thought, right? That we know, and and for me, I clung to them. They were my safety. I gotta eat this, I gotta sleep this, I gotta do this. And when Dove was just bringing up, the IQ, that was something that kind of hurt me, because I was born, with some what they would call disabilities in reading comprehension. Just I didn't understand what was going on here, and I think that was the gift, because I want to tell you, when I would be daydreaming, I was okay. It was the teachers that weren't okay, and then the kids picked up on it, but I was okay. Because right-mindedness is always, always here. It's not awakened yet where it knows who it is, but it's always watching, right? And as we grow our consciousness, it comes to life and it takes over. Anyway, would you like to say goodbye, Laurie? Because I'd like you to just take the mic, and thank you, everybody. And I'm looking forward to the whole day and then tonight. Thank you, Laurie. You want to talk, Doug?
No, Michael's had her hand up.
I can't see her hand. Why can't I? Oh, here I go again. I'm not reading. Yeah. Oh, here it is.
Hi,
I
gotta
just
turn that.
I just wanted to say that about what Dove shared, and thank you for your sharing, Lori and Sharon, about the intelligence test. My first husband was a Vietnam veteran. I talked about it before, and he had committed suicide. But he was a very gentle soul, and he scored so high on intelligence that the Marines put him into intelligence. And then during that time, so the system used him, and they used him for their own benefit. And he was so gentle that it destroyed him, what he did, and that he couldn't talk about it. He wasn't allowed to talk about it. So, and then he tried to get a job with the post office, and he scored so high with that. He just wanted to be a mail carrier so he could be outside and deliver the mail. And they said, no, they said, you scored too high on the test. We have to put you in the office. Then he went to the gas company and he took their test, and he scored too high on that, and they made him go into the office. So the system uses you. It's in what he saw is that nothing made any sense. He didn't have the course back then, but he said it was just a meaningless world. That's what he said to me. It didn't make any sense. And then they score you, like they scored him. And he just wanted really to be simple, but because he scored so high on the test, the system used him, and that's the way of the world. So I just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Mikhail. That's a powerful story. Okay, it's Zulma's turn. Thanks, Dove, Sharon, Lynn. See you guys.
Thanks you all so much. And I'm going to